Hello and welcome to another mini episode of Literary Liberation Podcast. Today we will be discussing our favorite book talkers on TikTok. Kristen and I have adopted a Palestinian family that is currently still stuck in Gaza. Mohammed's neighborhood was bombed and killed 22 members of his family, leaving him responsible for his 4 younger siblings who were pulled from the rubble. We have their family's GoFundMe linked in the description, and they're very close to their goal. Please donate below. I just checked recently, and I think they're like 8,000 or 10,000 away from being completely caught up. So it's getting there. We're almost
Yes.
done, and it's very expensive to leave,
Yeah, to
unfortunately.
evacuate.
So if you have the ability, please donate.
Or share.
Don't forget, yes, or share. That works too. Share the good word.
GoFundMe.
Get it around.
All right.
Don't forget Kristen!
Sorry!
Don't forget there's a link below to sign up for our free newsletter where you can get more information and updates about us and the podcast. For more content outside of the podcast, please check out our Instagram and TikTok at Literary Liberation and Twitter at LibLibPodcast. I'm your co-host, Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Rye on all social media platforms.
And I'm your co-host, Kristen. You can find me at KRXXTXN on all social media platforms.
I feel like Book Talk gets a lot of hate, and it can
I
be really
agree.
hard to navigate when you're first getting into it. And I know there's a lot of like mainstream book talk. I mean, it's a lot of it is smut. It's a lot of it's dark romance. And Kristen and I have spent years curating the most ideal For You pages for us personally, and we have quite a lot of overlap with the content creators that we enjoy and consume and get book recommendations from. So today we are going to be highlighting them and kind of showcasing what we look for, I think, in a book talker when we want to like follow them, and the types of books they recommend and how they kind of format their videos that makes it intriguing. That like, why should we read them? They sell them in a way that I think it's just good. Like, they're just good at what they do, and most of the time they have bangers that they recommend.
I do want to say, though, a lot of these I don't think are necessarily mostly political on their account either. Like, some of them may have, like, a few, like, political, like, where I think most of these people in general are left-leaning people, I would say, to generalize. But I know, like, some people on my list, like, don't talk about politics, like, very much or anything like that, or even necessarily, like, nonfiction a lot. And so that's kind of, like, why we wanted to talk more about, like, how we decide what fiction reads. I think we decide to read is kind of where most of these book talkers come from, because, like, there are other people that we do follow that do talk more specifically about nonfiction and stuff like that, but I think most of these people are genuinely just, like, fiction book talkers that we usually get our main fiction book recs from.
And I'm pretty sure all of them are pro-Palestine.
I
I
would
looked,
say so. I mean,
and I
for one of
think
mine,
at least 90% that we know.
like, no, at least most of these people that, like, I follow, like, usually I haven't seen them promote any Zionist authors that are, like, the mainstream Zionist authors that are, like, at least, like, SJM and, like, those sort of people. So, that's the main thing where I don't necessarily, but, like, I know some of these people, like, at least, like, I don't, like, always see their content, so I don't know what they're always posting because I'm not somebody that looks on my following page. I don't know if you are, but I'm genuinely on the For You page 90% of the time I'm on. I'd say 99% of the time I'm on TikTok. I'm not looking at the friends page and I'm not looking at followers page, even though I do follow all of these people.
Yeah, occasionally I will go on there if I notice that my For You page is getting a lot of like ad heavy content. So I'll go on there to like try to get some of those people back on my For You page, because I just think it curates better content on the For You compared to like the following.
Yeah.
Following is kind of it doesn't
I
the
don't like
algorithm doesn't algorithm right on the
I
following
think
page,
it's just
unfortunately.
I think the way that the following page does, and this could be totally wrong, but I think it's like basically like by how recently people post and stuff like that. So like you might not necessarily get like the people that you follow in a timely manner, I feel
I
like.
agree. I think that's correct.
So like a lot of these people, like I follow them that like every day, like if they post every day, I will get their at least one of their videos on my For You page every day, I would say.
I agree.
So just want to say that. Um, but I mean, me and Mariah each have 5 individual book talkers that we pick, and then we have 2 overlapping book talkers that we both genuinely love, because I think most people know that me and Mariah don't really have the same taste in books, like, kind of at all. Like, our
No,
5
not
stars
even close.
like, I feel like usually, like, our five-star reads will end up having the same, like, Babel, um, what other five-star reads do we share?
The Lee Bardugo books are pretty
Yeah,
close. We rate very similarly. Um,
I
Most of the
mean
books we pick for the podcast,
yeah.
very rarely do they not line up correctly.
But, like, in general, like, the thing is that, like, the podcast is such, like, a niche amount of books that we read because we only end up reviewing 2 books a month, and I think in general I mean, usually I'm in a book slump right now, but usually I think I read about, like, 5 to 6 books a month, and you read, I don't know, like, 20 books a month depending. So it's like
Yeah, anywhere from 12 to 16, I
so
think, on average.
so this is, like I think the podcast is kind of ends up being, like, a small little bit of what we even decide to read most of the time.
And it can be hard to pick out. So these are the people where we see it kind of inspire,
What
or they will post critiques of the videos, and we're like, okay, we could definitely like, or of the books, not the videos.
yeah,
Um, that we think that has some substance.
yeah. So these are also not in order of like our favorites or anything like that. Where obviously I think like for some of these I do have like a preference. Like I'd rather see like this person's video on my For You page rather than this person. But like these are not in like any particular order. And I believe we're all aware that all of these TikTokers have more followers than both of us, pretty much, I would say. Most of them probably do.
Yeah, I think so.
At least definitely more than just the podcast in general, so it's not like but I just think this is good if anybody is interested in, like, what me and Mariah get recommended, and I would say most of these people, in general, I would say, like, they could probably I probably add a book a day to my TBR from each one of these people, like,
The
to my
forever
Goodreads,
growing
yeah.
TBR.
So, like and the great thing about these people is that I feel like a lot of the times they do talk about books so much, like and these are people that are much better than us at TikTok where they are consistently posting every day. Wow, we're definitely once a week posters, where I think most of these
Yeah,
people
on
post
our collective page, even on my main page, it's hard just doing like the nonfiction bit because I just can't get through nonfiction as fast as fiction, and I just don't want to. I don't want to be like a run of the mill book talker, so that's why we do this.
yeah. But going in, I guess the first book talker we will talk about is one of we both enjoy. It's Grapey. So her at is at Grapey Del Taco on TikTok.
I
And
didn't know that was her ad. That's really
yeah.
funny.
Um And I think Grapey is probably, like, mine and Mariah's, like, top book talker, and it's so funny because we have, like, 1 degree of separation from Grapey because Mariah is friends with Nathan, which is what is his TikTok at?
Schizophrenic reads.
Schizophrenic Reads, yes. Mariah's friends with Schizophrenic Reads and has been on their podcast. So and Schizophrenic Reads is mutuals with Grapey, so we're, like, right there, Mariah. We're right
I know,
there.
I should just ask Nathan. I'm like, "Nathan, get Grapey to complete the mute."
Yeah. Um, but I like Creepy's videos in general because I think usually, she'll have left-wing takes and nuanced takes on books, and she'll read basically, like, I feel like she reads a lot of variety of books where she'll go from reading, like, a horror book one day to, like, a book talk romance the next day to, like, anything, and I feel like a lot of her recommendations are very unique that I have not seen elsewhere on Book Talk.
She's very much a mood reader, and I think
Mhm.
that's probably why a lot of her content does well, and then occasionally she'll just talk about, like,
Random
random stuff. She
stuff.
talked about that, she'll talk about, like, video game stuff or, like,
Yeah.
movies or whatever, and it's just really nice. I do like the way she formats her reviews for books.
Where
Especially,
she'll
like, I think the sentient object stuff is, like, really what took off and got a
that
lot of
yeah.
popularity from, and I read those because I some of it's just so fascinating. I get, like, the intrigue around it. It's like, why would you wanna read about a sentient door romance? Or the new JD Vance
Yeah.
romance, like the
That's where we originally found it from, was
pushing
from
cushions.
Grapey. Yeah,
So, it's just interesting books that you're not gonna see
on
anywhere
typical book
except
talk, yeah.
somehow Grapey finds them, and I think it's fascinating.
And it's even
Like,
not even
what
just, like, sentient romance either, like, Night Bitch was a recommendation that I got from Grapey, I think I actually got it from her Twitter, but then there's also, like, this other book that I have, I don't remember what it's called, but, like, I feel like she just recommends such a diverse things, and the way that she talks about every book, I, like, want to read every book she talks about.
I wish she was making money off it. She really should.
Yeah, she should
I
be
imagine
profiting.
sales for those books have gone up so much
Yeah.
since.
Because she gives such a clear and concise, like, explanation where it, like, basically only tells you what you wanna know about a book and whether or not you'd be into it or not. It's very nice and refreshing.
And we love that.
Yeah.
So, Grapey, I know we have dropped your name several times.
Please, we love you. We sit and we watch there was a time where I would go to Grapey's account every day to see if she posted, because I was like, "Oh,
That
damn, I
is
gotta
fangirl
see."
status.
There's some people that I have to know what they're posting. I have to see. Um, you wanna do the next one?
All right, so I'm gonna give 2. So my type of books that I go for, typically, I will read, like, body horror and splatterpunk. I really enjoy those. I'll read just about anything. I accept contemporary romance. I have to draw the line somewhere. Like, westerns and, like, contemporary romance, I can't do. Any sort of monster book
She
is
don't care
great.
about the
I'll
romance
read
unless
it.
they're killing each other.
I have read some of, like, the really, like, horror erotica, those books. So I think, of 2 very good authors that represent, like, the horror community is
Authors?
Eve Reads Horror. I don't know why I keep saying authors. 2 book talkers that I think do a really good job of talking about horror books of s different writing, like, they just do horror books, is Brandon Baker's, which is at Baker Reads, that has so many books. You look in the background, and I'm pretty sure it's like a closet that he's taken the doors off of,
Oh my
and
god,
it's just books lining, and it's all horror books.
that's crazy.
It's incredible. So, he has such a niche idea of, like, what is a good book, and I trust his opinion because he recommended Off Season by Jeff Ketchum, and it's a perfect horror novel. It's 80s horror, it's just good, it has the body horror, it's icky, it's yucky. It's just interesting, like, all around, so anything that Brandon reads, I add to my TBR. And the same with Eve Reads Horror, but Eve Reads Horror does more, like, splatterpunk specifically, and I got Mother Maggot, which was the weirdest, ickiest, like, oh, like, it just, like, makes your skin crawl, and that is such a hard thing, in my opinion, when it comes to books, because I think we're so desensitized by a lot of media. So, anything that she has recommended has just been gross in the best way possible. So those are 2 that I would recommend. If anyone really likes horror books, go check out their accounts.
See, my problem is that I don't think I can group up any of these together because I feel like I kind of have a wide variety of book talkers.
You do. I am very much like, I like my meat and potatoes, and I that's the type of book talker I cling to.
Yeah. Well, one of my other favorite book talkers that I want to talk about is Mandy at Mandy Rules with a Z. She is one of my favorite book talker accounts. She promotes a lot of library. She does library hauls and stuff like that because she's on a book buying ban this year or whatever because she was unemployed. I think she did recently get a job and so she's been blogging because now she works at a bookstore as like a barista. So you get a lot of like her like OOTDs of like working at a bookstore for one, and then she reads a lot, and then she promotes a lot of like getting books from the library and stuff like that. And she kind of does like lifestyle blogs, but in general, like her base is book talk. So it's really nice because like every book that I've read that she's read, like 9 times out of 10, we have the same exact opinion of it where it's like basically the same star rating. So I feel like any book that she likes, I can trust that opinion on. Where I'm like, okay, you liked like this book or you didn't like this book, or like we both felt neutral about this book. She has all like, every single one of those books that I've seen, like, her reviews on, it's been, like, the same, and I'm like, "Okay, so I can actually like, if you're promoting this book, then more than likely I would like this book," because, like, 1, she loved Babel, she didn't like that much Tender Is the Flesh or, like, How to Lose the Time War and stuff like that, and it's, like, it's very hard because I feel like sometimes, like, I have a lot of hot takes about books in the book talk community, and, like, there is a few where she rated My Year of Rest and Relaxation very high, and I'm like, that one I'm like, "Okay, that one I'm not on the same page as you as," but, like, there's other books that, like, I've read that she has given good ratings, and I'm like, "Okay," so it's like we very much mesh, I think, in, like, the way that, like, her content is, because it's kind of more vloggy, where she not necessarily, like, sits down and, like, talks about books and stuff like that, but she kinda does more vlogs where she does, like, short reading vlogs on TikTok, which I'm a big I love lifestyle vlogs in general, and so she really does that, and then she games and stuff like that and does audiobooks while gaming and stuff like that, and I'm also, like, a big gamer, and so I think it's really cool to see somebody that, like, very much meshes with, like, my type of personality where we have the same because, like, me and Mariah, I think, are very similar, but we also are very different. So then on the internet, it's very nice to see, like, other people that I'm like, "Okay, I could, like, see this person, they're gonna recommend this book, and I'm gonna like it, but maybe not necessarily Mariah's gonna like it." And so it's nice to have, like, other people that I could, like, connect with books on because not saying that Mandy and I are mutuals, but every time I comment on one of her posts, she responds to my comment, which is more than what Mariah does. Uh,
That's true.
so but I think Mandy rules, like, I love her content, and every single one of her books she recommends, like, 9 times out of 10, I'm giving the same rating. So, um, I guess I could talk about another book talker since you talked about 2.
I didn't know you were gonna give a dissertation on each one. Holy shit, you could do a whole
I
YouTube video on them.
I could, I love this is, like, certified yapper right here. Um, Another person, I don't have that much to say about her, so I like her videos. Her name is Christina. It's at Tina's_library. I really like her account because she does a lot of sapphic book recs. And so that's kind of where, like, I see a lot of, like, sapphic romances and sapphic books get recommended because I feel like definitely on TikTok there's a lack of diversity unless you intentionally are searching for those things, especially whenever you're first logging on to Book Talk, where it's just gonna be straight dark romances is basically what pops up the first time you look up Book Talk. So it's nice anytime that I see someone that recommends, like, specifically like Christina, like, she recommends, like, her whole profile is just recommending sapphic books. So it's very nice to, like, have those people that can pop up on your For You page sometimes so you can be like, "Oh, okay, well, adding this to my TBR," because 1, it's great to just have more diversity on your shelves, and 2, it's great to just be able to see books that maybe regular mainstream book talkers would not talk about because they don't get as much light as straight romances.
Yeah, I feel like sapphic books specifically, like any like WLW type of book, kind of
Yes.
gets overshadowed. I feel like I've seen a lot of like it'll be like why choose or it'll
Mhm.
be I don't know any of that variety, but it's not just very specifically sapphic. So that
Yeah.
is good. I will have to follow some of these I haven't heard of. So this is very nice. This is
Yeah.
good.
Because we don't really a lot of the times, like, because me and Mariah have such different book taste, we don't ever recommend each other books that often unless we're like, "Hey, I wanna do this for the podcast, you have to read this." Like, that's basically the only time books we read overlap is if we're doing it for the podcast, which I feel like it's really funny because I feel like people will look at us and be like, "Oh, you guys like the same stuff," and it's like,
It's like
Not
no.
really."
I do watch a look at so the other book talker,
That we
I don't
share.
know that
We
she
share
does
joint
YouTube.
custody.
We share. We're joint custody of Ashley at Wicked Reads. I love her mailbox videos where she's standing there and they just like all pop open and she gets
Yeah.
all of this book mail.
Those are
How
over
she does
now.
it
She bought a
are they?
house. She bought a house, and so they moved, her and her fiancé. So you will never
Oh
get another one
no,
of
we're not gonna
those.
get them anymore. I used to love those, but she also works at a library. She has a
Yes.
master's degree in like library science or something
You
fucking
have to be a
crazy.
librarian.
Yeah, so she's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
librarian,
She's a
not
teen
just some
librarian, by the way,
so it's very
specifically.
cool.
Yeah.
She also reads a stupid amount of books. I think one of my favorite
She
things that
reads
she'll
more than
post is, like
you.
she does. She will be, like, trying to finish my physical TBR faster than new books come in the mail.
Yes.
All of those videos, I stop, I drop, and I'm locked in.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
That's one thing I like about those videos too, is because she gets so many arcs, it's kind of interesting to see, like, new books that are, like, coming out, because since they're all arcs, they're books that'll be coming out in the future, I think most of the time is that she get, and so, sometimes I don't know, I feel like she gets a lot of romance, like, contemporary romance, so it is kind of, like, not necessarily, but then there are a few, like what's that word where it's, like, diamonds in the rough? that, like, seem really interesting to me.
Yeah, just like the overall I think it's such a fun style of book talking, especially with how much she reads and
Mhm.
she shows how she's able to read that much. Because I get asked questions all the time, like, how do you read so much? I was like, well, I don't have any hobbies, one. So
I
you
mean,
don't have a life. But she's like, her job is working at a library. So
actually,
she's
like,
got that
around
in.
books. Well, that's the thing too is that, like, um, I think she's like you where, like, she doesn't really do anything else except for read mostly, for, like, her main hobby, which is, like, how you are. So, it's also nice too because since you read so much, you're basically getting a book review every day from her account, just about.
Yeah, I would say so too. And
So,
she
it's
was
kinda
very honest.
nice.
Sometimes
Yeah.
she's like, this book is not good.
Yeah, she'll be like, "This is trash, don't read it." Like or, like, she's one of those people too, she's a harsh DNFer, like, harsher than you, Mariah.
Yes. Yes, she will read like 5 pages. She's like, nope.
Yeah. Like,
She's like,
she
DNF
said one
it.
time she's
It's
DNF'd on,
nuts.
like, the first page, and I'm like, "That is crazy." Like, I, like, literally me DNFing, like, there's, like, 2 ends of DNFing spectrum. There's me DNFing, and then there's Ashley at Wicked Reads DNFing, where it's, like, the first page, and then me not DNFing until at least I'm over 100 pages into a book, you know? So,
Well, that's it. You're a completionist.
I know. But I'm
So you
sure if I
can't.
was trying to read that many books too, because that's her whole thing is that, like, she's like, "Do not waste time on reading stuff you don't like." That is her kind of whole motto. So, like, she'll DNF anything. She'll be like, "I didn't like the name of this character, so I DNF'd," or something. Like, I feel like she has a lot of funny
So funny.
stuff that she'll be DNFing for, which is real. Like, I wish I could do that, but never me. I'll talk about Meet Me in the Media Center. I don't know this woman's real name, and she's older because she's been like a teacher for so many years, and she's getting her degree in library sciences right now. So that's how she was able to become a librarian at her school. But she talks a lot. So I'm somebody that I've been really interested lately. I've been always wanting to go back to school and get my degree, but I've always been like, I don't know what I want to go back to school for. And ever since like after COVID, me falling back into love with reading and stuff like that, I've always wanted to be a teacher. That was kind of like my default. I wanted to be a teacher, but I feel like being a librarian at like a school is kind of like my dream job, I think, because I'm still in that school setting because I love school settings and then also because I do like reading and I love recommending books and stuff like that. So I think I'm really interested in going and getting my master's in library science. I kind of just need to like push myself to actually do it. But I like that she kind of explains a lot about like what her process was and her becoming a librarian and stuff like that. And she explains it for like where she lives. Obviously, it's different in every state and stuff like that. But I feel like she's very open and she pushes a lot of like she talks about how great like being a librarian is and how she wishes everybody could do this job because it's so great. So I really like that positivity about her. And since she's a middle school librarian, she recommends a lot of middle grade and YA books, which is like some of my favorite genres. As you can see, I have all up here is like YA. Like most of my shelf is YA middle grade books. Like that's some of my favorite genres. So it's always cool because like since her job is a librarian, one of the jobs of like a librarian is to make like their age of the librarian of books to be like closest to the year that we're living in. And so, one way to do that is by ordering books that have come out within the last 5 years or so. And so and getting those into the library and getting those circulating on the shelves and stuff like that. So, I think it's really cool because, like, obviously, I don't know any middle schoolers. So, I don't know what's popular within the middle grade genre or in the YA genre, but it's really fun to see, like, books that are coming in, like, new books that are coming out that I would not necessarily be on my radar because I don't know children reading. So that I can, 1, have recommendations because I'm a nanny, and so there's 2 boys that I watch, and one of them I like to recommend books to read that, like, I like to read at that age, but I don't know of a lot of the newer books. So it's really nice to see, like, she can show, like, what books she has coming in and stuff like that, so that I can see those books and then either read them myself or recommend them to one of the boys that I watch about, like, middle grade books and stuff because I feel like not a lot of people on Book Talk are specifically recommending, like, middle grade books either. Like, it's all very adult, which I mean, like which is fine. I like reading adult books too, but I love it brings me back to an age whenever I was so invested in reading, where the only thing I did in my free time was watch TV or read. So it's very nice to like see those types of books and like get them on my own radar. As you can like literally from this here, honestly, this shelf here too, and up is all like YA books or middle grade books. So like that's one of my favorite genres, and so it's really nice to have a book talker to follow that talks about like popular middle grade books. Because these are like books that kids are actually reading because she works in an actual middle school. So it's actually books that middle schoolers are reading, you know?
Yeah, I also read them, but for different reasons because I have kids.
Yeah.
So I like to find books that I think are super interesting, and I like to reflect upon like what I read as a kid, so I can try to find books that my 10-year-old would read because he does not like to read, and it kills me.
Yeah. There's a
So
book
we have to
out there
find a
for
way.
him.
But Spiderwick was one of those ones. I was like, you should really try this. And you know what? He devoured it, and it was so nice to see. And I think being able to have somebody that's an adult who works in a library where we can see the things and also like you can trust their review from them because you know they're gonna have, like,
Actually
decent
children appropriate.
ideas. Yeah. So it makes it easier.
Yes. Especially because that's somebody that specializes in it with it being her job. So, like, versus, like, us, like, we don't know, like, anything about, like, that type of age of fiction or anything like that. And one of my favorite videos of her too is she goes to Goodwills and thrifts books for her library and stuff like that because, like, they have a lot of missing books, and so, like, her school tries to not do any fees unless, like, a book is missing for, like, 2 years or something, then they'll charge, like, that student's account. But if she's able to thrift the book, she can just replace the book with the thrifted book and it gets rid of that student's fees. Or like a lot of her fans will send books to get rid of kids' fees too,
That's
which
really
is
nice.
really nice. Yeah. I think it's a very good like community building that I think. That's why libraries are so great and librarians are so great because they promote like community building and children reading and stuff like that. So okay, so the last person that I'll talk about then by myself is Sera. And I don't actually have that much to say about like Sera, so I can try to be quick. But her at is serareadthat. Sera, quickly. I really much like her. She has a lot of great book talk opinions. I mean, obviously she critiques like Zionists and stuff like that, which is very always needed in that. And she originally had like she would do like sort of like vlogs where she talks about ways that you can diversify your reading, and she has a lot of great recommendations herself of like POC characters that are main characters in books. And also I like about her account is she will promote other book talkers that also have POC recommendations and stuff like that because she's really big on people diversifying their books that they read and stuff like that. So I think she's a really great account to follow. And something that she hasn't been doing recently, but she would do weekly wrap ups of what she's watching, reading, and listening to. So then I like that little format where she would talk about like TV shows she would watch, music she was listening to, and then books she was reading, which I think is really fun to get like all of somebody's like media interest at once. Is really interesting to me. That's all I say about Sarah. But again, another really good booktuber.
You know what I
So,
mean?
Books with JJ is a small recommendation from Mariah.
I do. Like, originally, I had seen Books with JJ post because she was talking about how Sarah J. Maas was a Zionist and got so much hate and backlash. It was actually insane. I think that they live in the UK, but they post like book buying vlogs and whatnot. And they
Fun.
have like like the type of fantasy that Kristen likes, like
Oh.
obsessed with Leigh Bardugo.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
maybe
think
I should follow
Stephanie
them.
Garber is another one. You really should. I feel like you would
I've
like it.
never heard of them,
I
so
believe that they have met Leigh Bardugo too. Like
jealous.
Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, I think got signed.
Oh my god.
So I know,
Robless.
right? I saw that. I was like,
Robless.
oh.
I mean, technically one of my books is signed. It's digitally signed though, so
That does not count.
I spent
I'm a hater.
$300 on the book, so okay. But then you can go
Okay,
into it's
and
3
then
books,
Bridget.
so
Okay, fair enough. Bridget Ish. That's the at on TikTok. I love the format. Originally had seen some of her videos where she would just talk about like pink
she
books
always holds her
or
microphone like this
yellow books.
too.
She does.
She always
She talks like
she talks
this
like this into
where
the
it's
microphone.
cute. It's
It's so
always to the
cute.
side and
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
so
cute.
cute.
It's so fun. has really interesting, a lot of different genres of books that she'll touch on and talk about. Lit fic. I'm not a lit fic person, but some of
Mm.
the other ones
I feel like she
I
does a lot
can
of, like,
vibe with.
good for her, like, fiction is, like, kind of, like, the
Yeah.
vibe of a lot of her books, because, like, she recommends a lot of, Gillian Flynn, I think is her name, which is, like, the Gone Girl lady. Like, the lady that wrote Gone Girl, and so, like, I've never read Gone Girl, but I know, like, the vibes of it and, like, stuff like that, which I think is a lot of what Bridget-ish ends up recommending, which is, like, can be fun, I think. I think especially for, uh, like, books that I feel like that's probably more books that we should probably be reviewing on here, is,
I
like,
do. I
good for
think
her
that too. We
fiction.
should check out Gone Girl because neither of us have read it, and I never watched the movie, and
Me
I
neither.
know nothing about it. It's just a good for her girl or like movie,
Yeah.
or book. So I think we're like the prime, like first impressions of that book. We should
But
definitely give it
I'm
a
kind of
shot.
worried that, like, that's one of those books that it's, like, because it got so mainstream that it's almost like, is it just gonna be, like, surface level? And it's just, like, because, like, everyone, like, read it, they're like, "Oh my god, this is so deep," but then, like, to us, it's just like, "Oh, like, I read better in, like, a young adult novel or something," you know? That's
Maybe
one of the
I'll give it a
things.
shot. I have it up on the shelf. I found a first edition of it at
Oh,
the thrift
really?
store. So yeah, so I have it
Wow.
on the shelf. We'll have to give it a shot, but good content. And then the last one that we have to talk about that we both watch, but Kristen watches
I'm
more
a much
is
bigger
Lexi.
fan. Just saying, Mariah's a fake fan, I'm a real fan. At Newly Nova,
It's because you
Lexi,
watch YouTube. Yeah.
yes. Well, because, I don't really watch her TikToks. I feel like she doesn't make that many TikToks that often. Like,
It's just like the YouTube videos that are clipped, which I enjoy. I can't
I
do long videos.
love her YouTube videos. Like, if she posted every day, it's like that that TikTok sound, that's me for anything Lexi posts. Like, I honestly think she may be my favorite book talker technically, but I don't watch her TikToks, I watch her YouTube. And in general, I love long form content. Usually I prefer long form content. I love putting on a 50-minute YouTube video to go to sleep to. I love putting on a 50-minute YouTube video to play my little games. I love long videos. Like, if a video is 20 minutes, I think that's short. Just saying. But even just yesterday, she just posted yesterday, and I sat there and stared at my screen and watched her video. She did a 47-minute video of all the books she was unhauling, which is like 120 books, and she just talked about her opinions for all the books she read and like explained the like plot of them. Like, not like the full plot, but then explained like if she hated it, or she spoiled like some books she hated and stuff like that. But it's like I could listen to her talk about books all day long, like everything. Like the way that she has such nuanced opinions that are so like I wish I could talk about books the way that she does because she so clearly states her opinion without like I feel like I repeat myself a lot and I use a lot of filler words. Well, like she
She's very concise and
yeah,
clear, like,
yeah,
her voice is very nice, like, she sounds like she was somebody that took a lot of, um,
public speech. I think
public speaking
she
classes or
literally
something.
said she was on like the speech team in high school. So like you can tell, like as a compliment, because
Mm,
like the way that she like clearly and concise is like point of how she speaks about books. And I'm like, I do not have that skill in my wheelhouse to speak about anything that I like. I like will loop back like 20 times to like the same point I've already made 10 minutes ago,
and
where
I'm
I
pretty
just
sure it's
become
all
rambly.
unscripted, which
I
is
think so
she's off the
too.
top of the dome, which is
I don't know for
incredible to
sure,
me.
but, like, from the ways that, like, I watch her video, like, cause she'll, like, look off into space, and I'll be like, "How are you just saying these words without, like, clearly and concisely thinking about what to say next?" Like, cause like, I do that where I speak off the dome. I don't script anything most things that I write, and whenever I do that, I'm rambly. I don't think Lexi comes off as rambly at all, you know? Like, it's a very much, like, perfect bing, bing, bing. And it's so great because she does like her vlogs on YouTube are some of my favorite. Like she just did a vlog where it's like only reading fantasy for the week, or she did only reading dark romance too. So like sometimes you have some like generic book talk, but again, it's another one of those people too that like I have the same exact book taste as her. Every single book that she gives a positive review, I'm giving a positive review. You know? Every book she hated,
Yeah.
I hate that book, you know?
She's just like me for real.
I know. Is there?
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So those are some of
I
our
think
favorite book talkers. Oh, were you gonna say something?
no, I was just thinking, getting my brain rolling.
Those are some of our favorite book talkers that I feel like in general, like if you look at anything that like is on my TBR, I get all of my recommendations from Book Talk. I don't think I've ever walked into a bookstore anymore and like been like, "Oh yes, I must read like this book just based on a cover." I've been burned too many times. I buy books that I'm like, "Oh, this has a cool cover," and then later I see that they have shitty reviews, so I'm like, I can't trust myself to go somewhere and make my own opinion for a book. I have to follow somebody else's. But like, so if anybody like if Lexi or like Mandy, those are like my top two where I'm like, if they're giving that book a 5 star, it's on my TBR. Basically. I don't know if
I
you have
agree.
anybody that you're like that.
That gives a 5-star read.
They're like, is there anybody that you have like the same book talk taste as?
No.
Really?
I
You're
read
so
too
weird.
many, like I read a lot of weird books, like, I get that a lot every time I post my, like, monthly wrap up because it's, like, manga and then horror and then
Dark
monster
romance.
smut and dark I'll just read whatever, so it's just up in the air, and then, like, the nonfiction, so
Mhm.
nonfiction, I can, like I know exactly who I can, like, like, if Nathan rates it a 5-star, I'm like, "Okay,
I
say
gotta read
less."
it.
I gotta read it. Um, that's about it though. Fiction is hard, but those ones are the ones that at least inspire me to want to read other books.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess if that's all, thank you and good night.